So I think the open world of Borderlands 4 is going to be a much larger part of the overall game and is going to have a ridiculous amount of activities and different content to go play through. And we also have been able to see a large chunk of the content we can expect to see in the open world, at least in one of the starting zones. So that's mainly what I want to go over, all of the information around the open world and all of the content we could be doing in it. Now, the developers have said that they want open world farming to be a viable strategy for endgame gearing going into Borderlands 4, and there's a handful of ways they're doing this. First off, all of the new movement tech, being able to go up on those zip lines and just float across the map, being able to spawn your vehicles anywhere you want, are all going to be pretty big parts of this, but the developers did specifically mention that they want you to be able to create more movement-focused builds to allow you to specifically be able to more effectively farm in the open world. So go event to event and just be able to move much more easily in the open world content compared to something like boss farming, where with the new respawning mechanics, you won't really have to worry about movement that much. You'll basically just defeat the boss, go to Moxie's Encore machine, respawn the boss, go back into the arena. So these two types of farming are actually going to be very different and will want you to create different builds, and developers have developed the game and the classes to allow for both of those. Now, because of some of the gameplay we've gotten, we've been able to see a lot of the map legend, and we got to see a lot of the different pieces of content through that. So you have areas of interest, which is Fortress, Vault Entrance, Airship World Event, Coliseum World Event, Meteor World Event, and Target Practice Dummy. And then under activities, we got to see Order Silo, Safe House, Ancient Crawler, Abandoned Auger Mine, Order Bunker, and a Drill Site. So all of these seem to just be different pieces of open world content, most of which being replayable and a bunch of which being somewhat random. And because of the event where hundreds of people got to play the game, we got a bunch of footage of most of these world events and different activities. So Mental Wars actually has a write-up on explanations of all of this. So I'll have that linked in the description, and we're just going to be going through all of the information on this. So first off, we have areas of interest, which seems to include the Airshipwreck World Event, the Coliseum World Event, and the Meteor World Event. And these areas of interest are explained as repeatable objectives that occasionally appear throughout Kairos. These dynamic events allow you to earn rewards based upon your performance. So these seem to be the things that are kind of random world events, and it seems that they can actually spawn in different locations. So you may go to one location one time, it'll have nothing there. You go to it again, and maybe it'll have like a Coliseum. You go to it again, maybe it'll have the Shipwreck. So these all seem to be more of the dynamic events that'll be in different areas and be randomly spawning. So first off, we have the Airshipwreck, which is fight against Order troops and destroy their cargo they are trying to load onto their airships. You can destroy the cargo from nearby trucks on the ground. You need to lower the truck's shield by removing the batteries on the side before you can shoot the supplies. You also need to then board their airships by stepping into the tractor beam. Once inside the airship, you need to destroy as many enemies and cargo crates as you can. You can find crates throughout the cargo hold and also look out for secondary objectives. And then you exit the airship before they execute the incineration protocol, as this will instantly kill you. And there is a timer next to the objective, and an order commander will do a call out on the intercom at 40 and 20 second mark, and then a 10-second cooldown. So this seems to be more of a multi-stage event where you have to destroy all the supplies you're trying to put onto the airship. Then you take a tractor beam onto the airship to destroy as much up there as you can. Then you jump off of it before they incinerate you, and you'll get rewards based upon your performance. Now, for both the Coliseum World Event and the Meteor World Event, it seems these weren't seen during the playtest, or at least I don't have any information on these, and this article also doesn't have information on these. But again, we did get to see this in the map legend, so maybe these were higher level things, or maybe these were specific to other zones. I'm not exactly sure on that yet. But based upon your performance in any of these world events, you'll get different reward tiers, and you'll be able to get bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, and it does seem like these rewards are also things that will be sent to Echo 4. If you don't know, if you say complete quests in Borderlands 4, you'll be able to just pick up the reward from Echo 4 in your inventory instead of having to go back to the NPC to complete the quest and get your reward. And usually these are going to consist of chests that will tell you different loot variations you get. So maybe one of these chests, it could give you like epic up to legendary or something. And it does also seem that getting the highest tier of these rewards will just give you higher chances to get legendaries legendaries from these reward chests. So it seems like that's going to be a good way in which legendaries will be obtainable in the open world, and seems like one of the big ways in which the open world will be a viable farming strategy. And then we have activities, which are explained as one-time challenges to allow you to take over Kairos. So you have safe houses, you claim safe houses and gain access to fast travel stations, vendors, and an advantage point for gliding through the sky. And these will also reward SDU tokens, which is the new way in which you'll upgrade your SDUs, which is also done through your inventory. We have silos, which you claim these different silos, which we actually got to see in some of the first footage of the game, which will restore vendors and giving you the way to fly up to the floating silo in the sky and glide through the sky as well. These will also give you SDU tokens and vault key fragment locations. And again, we saw this through some of the first footage of Borderlands 4. We have ancient crawlers. You ransack these abandoned crawlers for valuable tech and restore access to nearby vendors. These will give you SDU tokens and vehicle customizations. Then we have abandoned auger mines, which we don't know what those are, order bunkers, we don't know what those are, and ripper drill sites, we don't know what those are. And then we also have a bounty boards. You can find bounty boards throughout Kairos. These always provide little quests for you to complete. There are multiple types of these you can accept, and you can only have 5 active at a time. And there's 4 different versions of bounty boards. There's acquire, retrieve an item and bring it back to a specific location, bounties to kill a challenging named enemy. Presumably these are going to be mini bosses or bosses which may have dedicated loot drops. We have collect, kill multiple enemies and grab their collectibles, and patrols, kill multiple enemies in an area. So these are a bit more controllable, but these will all be things out in the open world as well. Now, there are also world bosses that seem to be a different type of system that are also specific to the open world that seem to be called Rift Champions. And Rift Champions are random open world bosses that suddenly appear in Borderlands 4. These encounters have a high chance of dropping high quality loot from the general loot pool and are a great source for world drop legendaries. They don't have dedicated loot drops, but certain bosses you defeated during the missions are added to the rifts, and those still have their dedicated drops. And these encounters take place in a white dome. If you step out of the dome, the fight ends. And again, even in this article, it kind of specifies that these Rift bosses seem to be different to world events specifically. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, bosses you defeat throughout different missions throughout the game will be added to the pool of possible Rift champions, and those will have their dedicated loot drops, but I'm not 100% sure on exactly how that's all working. But they do have a list of different Rift champions or world bosses, which the developers also called these, that you'll be able to come across in Kairos. These are the ones we know of so far: Leadhead, Sydney, Pointy Legs, Horus, which again is a mission boss, which I think is the main reason that a lot of people are thinking mission bosses will be added to this as you go through different missions or main campaign missions. You have Lucky Lou plus Handy Howard, Ripsaw, Psychobot, Ganon. We have Spidengall, which splits into Grounded and Aerial, and Eddie Four Eyes Swazowski. So these are just the Rift bosses we know of, and I'm really curious if basically all of the bosses you defeat throughout different missions or the main campaign or something will be added to the possible loot pool of these, because that will be actually really interesting in my opinion. It could kind of make the possible boss pool too large, but this could be really interesting that you have these Rift champion bosses that will just be a mix of bosses that don't have dedicated loot pools that you kind of farm for world drops, and just having these actual bosses with dedicated loot pools randomly added in as well. So this could be a really cool system for the open world. Now, this seems to be the majority of the specific content and information we have for the open world of Borderlands 4 so far, but I think there's actually going to be a lot more, not only because there's obviously 3 different zones, and one of these zones specifically being more for the end game or the later stages of the game, being the big city where the timekeeper is, so there may even be more specific events or world events there. Each zone may have different world events within it, and we still don't know endgame specific content, which, because of the developers saying they specifically want the open world to be a big part of the game and to be a viable farming strategy, there will most likely be endgame specific things you can do in the open world. And we also don't know how the difficulty systems are going to work. We know there are different difficulties like normal and hard for the campaign, but we don't know how endgame difficulties are actually going to be working. So there's a lot of unknown things, but for the stuff we already know about the open world and based upon all the gameplay we've seen, it seems that that the world of Borderlands 4, the open world, is going to be not only really packed with content, but also a viable farming strategy and also just really fun to traverse, just get lost doing random side objectives and random events all the time, which I think is actually one of the most important things for a semi-open world or an open world game, having just constant stuff to do and not having like a super empty world. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.